Here are the top 5 software testing mistakes of 2025. And chances are you're doing at least one of them. And these aren't just rookie errors. They're the kinds of things that cause flaky tests, broken CI builds, and just wasted time. Mistake number 5, that's the silent killer. That's the one I see a lot of test engineers make, and we're gonna get to that. And if you want to learn more about my approach to software testing, download my free guide, Top 5 Test Automation Best Practices. It's stuffed full of valuable information that I use daily in my career. The link's in the description, don't miss it. Mistake number 1, neglecting to level up your testing skills. Big mistake I see testers make, myself including, is getting too comfortable and not learning more. Not leveling up your skills and learning new things. So software testing, it's evolving quickly. There's always something new. Once you get comfortable with one thing, say right now you're really good at Cypress, guarantee you tomorrow it's going to be Playwright. Then it's going to be Playwright with MCP. You have to add all the AI stuff in with that. Then you're training models on how to do your software testing correctly for your company. And then, whatever the future holds, it's always going to be something new. And it's not just your tests. You have to also look at what your developers are doing. What are the tools that they're using? What IDEs? What cool new technologies are they putting into place? What is just the code for your product? You need to learn that as well. Jump in and figure it out. Be part of their code reviews. Look at the code. Try to figure some things out. You don't need to be an expert at it. You don't need to know it as well as the developers, but being familiar with all that code could really help out your career, help you out with your testing on a day-to-day basis. So don't get complacent in your testing and let your skills just kind of get static and rot and fester, and then you're left behind, and you don't want to do that. You need to stay on top of it and just, once a month, learn something new. At least once a month, or carve out 10 minutes of your day to just learn things. And let your curiosity drive you. Have fun with it. Have some projects that light you up, that also help you keep interested in your job. So don't make the mistake of just clocking in, doing the same old, and not trying to dive deeper and expand yourself. And if you ever feel like your test skills are stagnating, you can always download my free guide, the Top 5 Test Automation Best Practices. The link is below in the description. Okay, so the next mistake coming up is vicious because we've all fallen for it. We've all done it in a rush, and we all pay the price. Mistake number 2, writing hard to read test code. Okay, I'm guilty of this. Everyone is guilty of this, at least at one point. Usually I see it from test engineers that are a bit earlier in their career. They write just a ton of code just to get their tests to work, and then they do no refactoring to make it look readable or legible. You have a lot of variables that just aren't named in a way that you know what the variable is doing. You have a lot of weird callbacks or weird things going on in the code that's, it made sense for you at the time. You just kind of blurt out everything in your head, get the test working. Does the test work? Cool, check it in. Bye, go on to the next thing. It's gonna bite you. It's gonna bite you, and it's gonna bite other people too. I think, what was it? The saying is, write your code as if the next person is gonna take over your code as a psychopathic killer that's very easily angered, right? So you don't wanna anger that psychopathic killer that's gonna come after you because you wrote really bad code, all right? Hopefully that never actually happens in real life, but what I'm getting at here is, usually that spaghetti code, that horrible, hard to read code, that's usually your first draft. It's like a first draft of a paper you did in college. So you need to go back and refactor it, make it readable. If instead of like whole bunch of just like if you're writing Cypress, it's side at this, side at that, side at this. And then you have long strings of CSS selectors, and it's just hard to read. You can't read it. So instead, refactor it, make things easy to read. Instead of the long CSS selector, you might want to say, oh, this is the login button. Instead of like div / whatever dot class whatever dot ID, just Make it easy to read. You should make it cognitively easy on whoever is reading your code. Like they're reading a story. They're not reading code. That should be like reading sentences. Your variables should be nice, wonderfully descriptive adjectives and nouns. Your methods should be a sentence describing what it does. You should be breaking your code into separate methods so they make sense. So instead of saying sci.navigate, then .get this, then .get that, then .click whatever, maybe put that into one function that says logging in, and just take the parameters. And then anyone taking your code can understand it. It's like, oh, logging in, adding to shopping cart, click checkout, and those are the names of the methods, and then people can just read it. You don't even need a lot of comments then. So yeah, that's basically it right there. Is you need to learn to refactor a bit and not treat your first draft of your code as the one that you submit, because you're going to hate yourself months from now when that test breaks, because it is going to break. It's going to happen. And then you have no idea what you did, and you're gonna have to decipher your own code, wasting a lot of valuable time. So just take the time up front, refactor. Some good books is Refactoring by Martin Fowler. Really good, really easy to approach book. There's also the classic Clean Code. A lot of it seems very Java specific in the later chapters, but like the first few chapters in that book, well, it changed the way I write my code. Yeah, those two books at least. Read them, understand them, and keep your code clean. Take pride in making that code look beautiful. Just because it's test code and it might not be going out to production, take pride in it. Hold yourself up to the same standards you'd hold up the developers on your team. But readable, nice code by itself isn't everything you need. So the next mistake is the one that I deal with daily, and I make, everyone makes, but it's something we have to constantly fight. Mistake number 3, writing flaky tests. Okay, so flaky tests are tests that sometimes pass, sometimes fail. You never know which. And then usually you're always just rerunning them manually to get them to pass. That's horrible. It kills confidence in your test. The developers don't want to run your test because they always know it's going to fail. They don't have confidence in it. So when it fails, for real, the developers aren't going to believe you. It's the little boy who cried wolf. If your test lied to the developers enough, they're going to stop having confidence in it. They won't run them to gate anything out into production. You want your tests to be the golden standard. You want them to really reinforce that the code is doing the right thing and that they can confidently ship this code out to the customers. If you have flaky tests, you can't make that assertion. So how do you make your tests more stable? It's an art. It's something you learn over several years, but some simple things, just like we talked about before, making sure your code is readable, because when you do take your time to refactor your code and make it readable, the logical steps make more sense on where things are failing, what might be going wrong. So that's the first thing. Actually making your code readable it makes it easier to spot where the flakiness might be. But usually a lot of things are around page load times. Those can vary. So you might need to be mindful about sometimes the environment that you're running against is slow, and you need to adjust your test to maybe wait longer for certain things to happen, certain things to appear on the screen. So you can adjust your timeouts. Be careful with this though, because if you adjust it too much, you might be missing some bugs. Sometimes it depends on the contract you have with your developers, your performance metrics, what the contract are. Some people don't want things to take longer than 3 to 5 seconds to load. So maybe you want your test to fail if your page load times are slow. But most of the time I see people care more about the functionality than the performance. Performance testing is a separate bucket of type of testing. So usually you're going in and making sure the functionality and core of your tests work. So that's making sure the business logic is working. So that's the main big important thing. The other thing that can make your test flaky is that you use like CSS selectors that have too much in there that are based on style or too many divs, or you're tracing things always all the way from the root and not really just going for the actual button, the element that you're trying to click. So make sure your CSS selectors are as minimal as possible. Preferably using like the ID or a data test ID. Ask your developers to add that in, or something that's very specific to the element that you're trying to click on or get text from. Talking to your developers too, like, hey, how can we make these elements more easily selectable in the test? Making your test more testable. Another thing that I always do to build confidence is if I know a test is flaky and I don't know why it's flaky, I put it into a different bucket of tests that the developers don't need to worry about as much. So I have my stable tests, and I have the poor behaving tests down here. And the thing is to iterate and keep gradually moving these crappy tests and make them stable, and then promote them up to the stable tests. So if you're inheriting a whole bunch of tests that are failing left and right, just move them all to the bucket of unreliable. You have no stable tests, and then move them one by one until you have everything passing and stable. And of course, there's always exceptions. There's always something happening that you have no control over. That's just the part of the life of a developer or software tester. You know, things are going to be changing, like from the developers just checking in code. But for the most part, you should do everything that you can within your power to make things stable. And if the developers see that on a daily basis, that you have very stable tests and you've worked hard to make those stable, and they know the process you are using to make things stable, they will trust your tests. So when they see a failure, they'll take it seriously. And I've seen both. I've seen when developers don't take tests seriously and when they do, and the team is so much more effective when they have confidence in your tests. So definitely take the extra time needed to make your tests stable, not flaky. All right, so flakiness is one problem with tests. But there's another one I've run into that's really annoying that I've seen junior testers make. Let's talk about that next. Mistake number 4, over-testing, testing too much. I've reviewed code and it's driven me insane because the code is testing every single last damn widget and link on the page. It's unnecessary. You don't need to do that. You need to follow just the workflow of what the customer will do to get to the desired outcome. Your test should be very pointed and specific. So if you're testing, like checking out the shopping cart, you don't need to test all the links on the page, that all the headers are working in every single, that's just overkill. Way too much overkill. And it makes your test flaky as well, because any change that happens, like any type of layout change or whatnot, it's going to kill your test because you're testing everything. It's completely fragile because anything changes and your test dies. So instead, just focus on the one scenario that you're trying to test and test it well, and be minimal. Don't add a whole bunch of fluff. Don't test every single piece of worthless text that you don't need to test. And by the way, if you do want to check all the layout of visually of everything on the screen, that's visual testing. That's a different beast. You know, you want things to be really stable, so you're probably going to mock the back end and just test the front end and do visual testing with tools like Apple Tools or Percy. But for your end-to-end test automation, yeah, be very focused, be very minimal. Don't test the same thing you've already tested elsewhere. Don't repeat yourself. Just do the minimal things to get to what you need. Yeah, I was working with one developer who just, I don't know why he did this, but he put like a base class, and in this base class of like a page object, he was just asserting every single control on this page. And then he inherited from that base class. So like, one, I don't know why he did that, just that really complex code for something that should just been one little class. It was like this inheritance thing. It was like this inherited from this, this, and this. And then finally you got the page object thing. And every time you instantiated this page object, it just kept checking all these things. And it made it so hard to figure out what was going wrong and debug it, because you had to step through everything to figure out why are things not working right. It drove me insane. So that's one example of testing too much. Yeah, what I mentioned before is not testing the same thing over and over and over again. If you have one test that competently checks your logging in and logging out, you don't need to keep doing that for every single test. You can, you have one test that's very much so focused on logging in and logging out. Then the rest of them, you just log in once at the beginning and then do all your tests and then log out later. I've made that mistake before. I'm always logging in and logging out every single time. I can be a stickler sometimes and try to make everything, it needs to be, the test account needs to be clean every single time, every single test. Just don't overcomplicate it like I have, like that other engineer I was talking about. Make your tests to the point, small, and of high value. That's really important. Make sure you're hitting the high value scenarios. You don't want to be testing a bunch of fluff that doesn't matter to your customers. You don't want that. You don't want to be testing, spending 50 tests just testing the footer that no one looks at. No one looks at those links to the footer, except for us when we're looking for a job. That's when we go to the footer. That's it. Okay, yeah, but high business value tests. Don't overdo it with everything else that doesn't matter, that isn't part of the scenario. Eliminate everything that isn't necessary. Be minimal. It makes your tests more maintainable, very easy to maintain, and also it builds confidence that your tests are testing the right thing. So that builds trust with your team, and so that way when something fails, it's not because you're testing some unrelated widget and you cause everyone's heart to stop when your test fails and they think the main core scenario is broken. It's like, no, link in the footer is broken. Everyone's like, we don't care. Let the link be broken. All right, so yeah, so be mindful of that. Test the important stuff. Don't add fluff just because you can. It's easy to throw everything in. Don't do it. Resist the temptation. Be minimal. And the last mistake, the fifth mistake, it's something that I struggle with. I still struggle with. I'm constantly struggling with. I've seen so many other test engineers struggle with it. We're about to get to that one next. Mistake number 5, being invisible to your team. This mistake is a difficult one for me, how to be visible to your team, how to be a part of your team, how to not feel like you're off on your own, because testing is kind of a thankless, lonely skill set. You got all these cowboy developers and cowgirl developers and cow them developers just, doing all this cool stuff. They're getting kudos from everybody, and then there's you just wrote the tests. Here's where you just need to change your mindset. You're not just some inferior engineer writing tests. That's not the mindset. You are responsible for quality. So think of yourself more as a quality engineer. You're not just writing scripts. Remember I talked about before, expanding your skill set? This is how you can also increase your visibility to the team, your contributions to the team, by being more involved with the quality in all steps of the development lifecycle. So you got to be there in the meetings, all the meetings. You got to be there when they're putting the specs together. You want to make sure at each step that you're injecting quality. Whether it's writing the documents, you got to make sure that the quality parts are there. When they come up with these scenarios, how do we determine that the scenario is good? The very simple thing is just, asking for discrete scenarios from your project manager. Pushing for that alone can really help it out for everybody, because basically those specs, those scenarios, those use case scenarios are going to be direct translation into what you're going to make tests. That's it. You ask for an example of what the customer is going to do, you're going to turn that into a test. That's a point where you can be very valuable to the process by really pushing back and saying, hey, we need to know what the use cases are for this feature. Then you're a voice of quality at that point. So that's just one example, but there are multiple places where you can be that voice of reason. So you might not be writing the unit tests, the developers usually write those, but you can make sure that they are writing the unit tests. So be part of the code reviews and look and say, hey, did they add unit tests for this? If they didn't, ask why. If they are running unit tests, make sure the unit tests are running with each commit, and check the code coverage. Is the code coverage going up or down? This is a part where you can get into the development process and say, hey, what's going on here? You can also, look at the whole pipeline. Where is quality happening in your CI/CD pipeline? Are the tests running and properly gating things before it reaches the customer? Look at your bug reviews, your backlog meetings, everything. There's always a chance for you to inject quality. Like if you're looking at tickets, you can look at the ticket and say, hey, what's the definition of done of this feature? If the developer writes this, when are they done? Is it just simply they wrote the code, or is it making sure that the test is always written for it and that the test is passed? So I would argue that having the test there is that you want that. You want that to be part of the completion of that ticket. And that's kind of a shift left strategy. You're not waiting for months down the road after this developer has written stuff and then test it months later. That's horrible. You need to test it and as it's being written, basically, hand in hand with the developer. But yeah, be part of the meetings. That's become familiar with the code base, know the terminology. Don't be intimidated by management or people who have skill sets that you don't know. Everybody starts from somewhere. It's impossible for everybody to know everything. Just own that you don't know something and ask questions. Figure out where to look things up. Meet with a dev after a meeting, say, hey, can you show me what this means, what this does? So the whole point is to make sure, one, you're visible, two, understanding everything that's happening around you so you know what to test, and three, making sure that things are testable, that test and quality are injected at every single point. And it doesn't always need to be code. Sometimes just discussing things and then you adding your voice of quality in there. Like, how is this going to be tested? Why is this a feature? For instance, I've said, hey, if you add this feature, that's great, but it's going to expand testing to take months. We're not going to be able to test this. It's going to take us months and a lot of resources to test this. And just saying that alone, people rethink about the scope of what they're trying to release. That's the bad thing, is people keep increasing scope and keep adding and adding and adding, and then it becomes this unwieldy monster, not a focused, high quality release. So part of your job is to rein them all in. Say, don't do all these things. Focus, let's keep it high quality, and then build on it once we have that high quality there, and build off of that. Don't just go run amok. So there are many opportunities for you to add quality to the process. So it's not just writing tests. Part of what I consider myself to do is being that voice of quality for the entire software development process. However you feel that needs to be in your company, you really want to grow your career, you need to be visible. You need to put yourself out there and you need to be involved with all of it. And I struggle with this because I freaking hate meetings. I can't stand being on these mindless meetings. I just zone out, and so I struggle with doing this and being part of everything and always feeling like I'm fighting an uphill battle a lot of times, and I get burnt out trying to do all the right things. So I struggle with this as well. I'm not saying this is an easy thing. I feel like other people make it look easier, but that's always comparing yourself to others. There's always someone who's better than you at something or has the appearance of being better than you. But don't discount yourself. Don't discount your viewpoint and your opinions and the contribution that you can add to the team. I think I've hit that point enough. Yeah, just make your voice heard. So there you have it. The top 5 software testing mistakes of 2025. And probably top 5 mistakes of my whole freaking career. Not just 2025, but all right, 2025. We'll keep it 2025. I still make mistakes. I still make these same mistakes. I like all 5 of these I will do again. Probably do them tomorrow. But it's being aware, and it's, always constantly improving yourself and getting better. We all make mistakes. We all write the flaky test. We all miss a bug. It happens. But it's just improving on yourself, recognizing the mistakes, and trying to put processes into place to prevent you from doing it again in the future. And also, once you learned how to get past these mistakes, share it with your teammates. Just share your experiences, share the mistakes you've made. Don't just bury them and try to be ashamed of them. Sharing the mistakes you made helps other people get better with adding quality to your team. So make your mistakes, make them proudly, and share them, and then don't do them again. No, kidding. We all do this. We all do this. So don't beat yourself up over it. But yeah, hopefully this has helped you and you got some value from that. Let me know in the comments, what are some of the mistakes you've made? Did I miss something major that you think I should have added in this list? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to chat about this more. Oh, and don't forget, just download my guide. It has a bunch of information in there that'll help you make less mistakes. It's the top 5 test automation best practices. It's a free download. It's down in the description. Give it a look. So now that you know the top 5 mistakes, what about like some top tips? How about like the top 3 software testing tips of 2025? Well, guess what? You're in luck. I got a video right here. It is the top 3 software testing tips of 2025. When you pair what you've just learned with this video, it's so much more powerful. Okay, happy testing, everyone. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. Later on.